Alright everyone, now we need to talk about student loan debt forgiveness. As predicted by yours truly, you probably ain't getting it. A federal judge has just ruled that you have to vacate the entire premise because it's unconstitutional. So if you want to escalate this to the Supreme Court, and of course if they even bother taking up the case, you're going up against a court that is at least narrowly conservative, you can go ahead and do this. Link in the description, not archived, it's just a tweet, so I'm just going to leave it there. Yes, a federal court has ruled that student loan debt forgiveness in the form that Biden wants to push it through is unconstitutional. I argued this fucking months ago. The whole scheme was a vote buy. Right before the midterms, knowing that there wasn't enough time for a court decision beforehand, and that courts would be damn reluctant to make the decision before the midterms anyway, because it would be seen as interfering with the election, like the omission is not also interfering, but we'll get past that. I predicted that it wouldn't actually be upheld. But that decision would come after the midterms. Oh, look at the timing. A couple of days later. Well, 3 days. Okay, they gave it a little bit of a breather there. 72 hours after the polls close. All of a sudden you get a federal court decision saying, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Biden, but the obviously unconstitutional wording of this particular plan is actually unconstitutional, so we're blocking it, and you can take it before SCOTUS, but you can't do anything until then. You are probably not going to see any student loan debt relief. This is why I didn't bother to sign up, not only just because of principle, because I don't have any reason to believe it'll actually go through. Why the fuck would I even bother? Putting my information in there takes time out of my busy schedule of editing literature, making videos, petting the cat, or doing something more significant. I could trim my toenails. I could go out and putter around in the lawn. I could go for a walk. I could eat something. I could try to get a little bit of sleep. Trust me, it is hard to come by when you're an insomniac with a young child. You've been snookered. So many leftists poured out in the polls. I guarantee that this was one of the issues that they came out and voted for, because they thought that Joe Biden was going to give them a handout. They thought free Gibbs, free shit, .tm. That's what they thought. They said, wow, if Biden wins, if he expands the Congress, I'll be able to get student loan debt relief. The thing was this. Joe Biden never planned to give you anything. This was not the plan. The whole plan was to buy your vote. He probably managed to buy several hundreds of thousands of votes throughout the country, possibly upwards of 1 million, because he promised people free shit. The whole goal was never to actually go through with it, though. They never expected to win the House of Representatives and thereby be able to pass actual legislation allowing the student loan debt relief, which really is just an inflationary scheme anyway, but that's a side issue. The whole idea was, I'll pass an executive order. It will sound very good. I'll set up the portal. People can put in their info. I'll make it sound like it's guaranteed that they're going to get this money. Because they think they're going to get $10,000, maybe $20,000, depending on whether they got Pell or not, they're going to vote for the Democratic Party. This is a naked vote-buying opportunity by the Uniparty system and nothing more. I would like to tell all the far leftists out there, you got goddamn snookered. And if you just got through the midterms voting straight Democrat for Gen Z because we need debt relief, you're not going to get it. You just got owned. You just got fooled completely. I warned you about it. Some others warned you about it. Most people didn't bother because they were too busy sitting back and laughing at you. The wool was pulled over your eyes, and then a hood, and then a goddamn layer of goddamn lead. This is what the Democratic Party does. It makes promises prior to the election. It even sets up as though it's a preordained event. It's preordained that you'll get debt relief. Of course, we've got a portal. You just put in your info. It sounds very official now, doesn't it? How many millions of dollars, by the way, did Michelle Obama's cohorts have to spend to make that website? You put in your info. It looked very above board. And you figured, hey, in a few months this will go through. Yeah, man, I'm going to be debt-free. Yeah, I'll be able to switch from ramen to Campbell's. Yeah, which is basically what the average person would do. If you're struggling with those payments, you're not actually going to get a mortgage for a home. Certainly not with the inflated house prices courtesy of Bidenomics. You are probably not going to get your debt relief. How very sad. If only you had listened to people that told you so. I watched the polling closely after the student loan debt relief thing was announced by Joe Biden. He restored his old polling floor. He had fallen below that by about 5 points. He had lost a shit ton of support. As I correctly analyzed, and this has a role in the current midterms, it was far leftists that didn't think that the Biden administration had gone far enough. The neolibs still liked him. Certain neocon Inc. sorts still liked him, but he was losing the left-wing vote, disproportionately youth voters, because he hadn't done any of the things that got them aboard in the first place in 2020. Nothing. Absolutely no universal pre-K. No, other than maybe insulin prices, he didn't do anything. And of course, the average person who's in their 20s or their teens, they're not buying insulin. So it didn't have any impact on them. They felt like, hey, this administration told us all this great shit, but that they haven't done anything. Basically, Joe Biden's acting like a Republican. By the way, that's not entirely false. If you look at the McCain side of the Republican Party, the Romneys of the world, the Lisa Murkowskis that get so much money in a GOP versus GOP race. No shenanigans there, by the way. This is totally normal by historical norms in the United States and in the Republican Party. In the latter, I wouldn't disagree. What happened is that the Uniparty just fucked you in the ass. They got, again, at least hundreds of thousands, possibly several million of voters. Far left, they wanted student loan debt relief, universal pre-K, all of these various things. Free college, free community college, student loan debt forgiveness, business debt forgiveness, handouts, the sort of thing that wrecks economies. The neoliberals know they can't do all of these things and actually maintain the economy. But now that the midterm's over, Biden doesn't care. Biden is perfectly willing to go forward with legislation on this to frame the Republicans as hating young voters, and I suspect that they will. But his executive order never had a goddamn chance. Nancy Pelosi even warned you of this last year. At the beginning of last year, when student loan debt forgiveness was being discussed, and the Biden administration was being questioned mainly by the left at the time, they said, hey, you said that you wanted to forgive student loans. What are you doing? Why have we got no forgiveness? Pelosi was questioned about this and came out and said, Joe Biden doesn't have the power to unilaterally forgive anything. He can't do it via executive order. Basically, Republicans bad. Well, there's too many Republicans in the Senate to get it passed. I'm sorry, but you're fucked. Joe Biden, very wisely, decided to pretend that this was not a constitutional issue, that it wasn't an issue that had to go through the legislature because of the size, because of the differential, by the way, between normal recipients and Pell recipients. There's a little bit of a hang-up because that's de facto discrimination against people based on their income. Despite the fact that it was obviously going to fail, he went ahead with an executive order anyway and made it look as though it was preordained to actually happen. And so he bought, potentially, millions of votes for the Democratic Party. Good strategy, I have to say. He did a good job fooling you moronic leftoids out there. Are you going to admit that you got snookered and then punish the Democratic Party that desperately right now needs to be punished just as bad as the Uniparty neocon Inc. sorts do? Because those of us who are commentating on the other side are prepared to punish the McCains and the Romneys of the GOP. I suggest you do some house cleaning yourself. That's about all. Peace out.